I want everybody to stand up. Please, I have to use my manners. How many of you remember what your first job was? Holler it out. What was your first job? It probably wasn't that long ago for most of you in this room. When I had to think back about that, it was a long time ago. How many of you knew when you took that first job that you were a leader? Show me your hands. So not very many, okay? How many of you knew your purpose of your job when you went there? Holler it out. What was your purpose? Why did you go there? Okay, different things, okay? Now I want to ask you another question. Everybody in here that is a mother, I want you to sit down. Everybody in here that is a sister, I want you to sit down. Everyone in here that is a father, sit down. Everyone in here that is a brother, sit down. Oh, stay, please stay. Anyone in here that is a neighbor, sit down. There you go. Did I get everybody? Okay. Leadership today is not about title. Leadership today is about your power of influence. And I start by talking about what your first job was. I like to ask you questions because I like to get you thinking about where you came from, and I want you thinking about where you're going. The job that we have today of being a leader in our communities is about the power of influence. And you have the power of influence in everything you do. So it's not a goal that you get to. You have that power right now, and you had that power when you took your first job. You had that power when you were to find your first role as a mother, as a father, as a sister, as a brother, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a community leader in the world today. It started a long time ago, and we're just having the conversation now. Kind of scary, huh? So when I talked to Kayla and I said, what do you want me to bring to this audience? She said a few things. I want you to talk about leadership. I want you to talk about effective change. And I want you to bring all of that together in this room so everybody understands the power that they have. So when you leave these doors today, you know you have that power of influence. It's up to you if you decide to use it for good or evil. Okay? So here's where we're going to go. I want to ask you, how many of you have your phones on you? Shocking. Guess what? You actually get to use them. I broke your thing already. Here's what I want you to do. When I first put this program together, I don't know much about young anymore, okay? Because young for me was a long time ago. So I have resources all around me. Working for Cy Wakeman with the others at Team Wakeman, we have a lot of young people there. So I have a resource that I could use and say, hey guys, I'm putting together this program and I don't come from young anymore. So tell me, what are you looking for in leadership? How do we keep people engaged? And so my resource was my great IT guy there, Alex, who does that and much more at Cy Wakeman Inc. And he said to get them engaged, let them use their gadgets. So at first I was freaking out. Clearly I've already broke this, that I like to call a clicker, but it's called a presenter. And I said to Alex, how do we get them engaged? And he said, have them get out their gadgets and let's have them text in their response. So here's the question I want you thinking about. You were asked this question when you signed up for this program, when you were surveyed. How many roles do you hold as leader? And it went anywhere from 0 to 5. So when I talked to Kayla and we started putting this program together, I said, how many people said that they had 0 roles as a leader? And I want to say this was maybe 2 months ago, and she had maybe 150 people signed up for this conference. About 10% thought they had 0 role as a leader. 0. Hopefully, in this first 5 minutes, you've realized that you have a lot more impact than that with all of the roles that you play in life. So, I want you to get your phone out, and you're going to text the number. We're going to see where we're at now. Have we come up from that 10%? How many roles do you believe that you have as a leader? The difference that 60 days makes. And I think we have 100 more people that came to this conference. So let's start talking about that. The power of influence. If I give you that label, how many roles do you have as a leader? Do we know a number that they can text into?
It's not working right now.
Oh,
Just have some people shout it out.
here we go. Let's do this. Let's all stand up. Because I'm supposed to keep you interactive, so you're going to be moving. You're welcome. I just gave you the gift of exercise today, too. So how many people believe that they have 5? We're going to start with the number 5. 5 roles as a leader. Sit down. How many of you believe you have 4 roles as a leader? And I know on the survey we started with 4, but I aim high. How many believe that you have 3 roles as a leader? 2 and 1. Nobody's going to be the odd man standing going, I'm not a leader anymore. That's how she started. Here's how I'm going to end it. My first job was as a babysitter. How many of you were babysitters? That was your first job. Okay. I think I was 12. I was responsible for an infant. Whoever made that decision, I'm still not sure. Probably wasn't a good idea on their part. So I went to the person's house. My mom had signed me up for this job, took care of the baby, did whatever I did. I made it home, and my mom said to me, how'd it go? And I said, good. Baby's still alive. It's all good. House is still there. Parents came home. I made it back. It's all good. She said, did you leave it better than when you got there? I said, what are you talking about? She said, did you leave it better than when you got there? Did you do the dishes? Did you do the laundry? Did you put the clothes away? And I said, well, of course, because that's what you taught me to do. So I want you to think about that. As your power of influence, do you leave it better than when you got there? In every situation, whether you're sitting in your car driving down the interstate, or if you're at home with family, when you leave that situation, do you add value? Leaders add value. That's your power of influence. So I want you thinking about that throughout. You don't have to wait to add value. The power that you have as a leader today, you're using that power to drive change. So effective change is about making a difference with the power you have and using it for good. I'll try not to hit that button again, break your. Now, when we go into corporations weekly, sometimes daily, monthly, we see the same thing. The other thing I'm supposed to give you is a balance. I'm supposed to help you balance your work and your home life. How many people struggle with that today? I'm not there, but I'm getting there, and I'm learning as I go. Good leaders know that you don't have all the answers. Sometimes you knock it out of the ballpark and you rock it, and other times you fail. Either way, to dust yourself off and keep moving forward and being the driver of effective change is our goal as a leader today. So I want you to look up here at the circles. When we go into businesses, this is usually what we'll find. There's some sort of conflict. Some of the best companies that are knocking it out of the ballpark call people from Team Wakeman in and they say, help us, we want to be better. Being a leader is not being perfect. Being a leader is asking questions, twice as many questions as you give answers to. It's also inspiring people and having enough courage to hold them accountable for their behavior. But to understand mindset, and that's what Alex gave me. He said, Lisa, here's what we need to hear. Here's the hope we want to have. We need help with our mindset, because until you understand where you came from and how your brain works, you won't know how to interrupt that thought to make an effective change, okay? So here's how it works. Something happens and we don't agree with it. Think about the last time you had conflict. So you're struggling with conflict, usually involves another person. How many of your jobs would be perfect if it just weren't for the people there? Welcome to my world. We all feel like that some days, right? Even at home, you go there and you're like, I would love this house if I was by myself, right? I would love this job if I was by myself. I would love driving down this road if there just weren't other people driving. Somebody gets out of bed every day just to make my life hard, right? But then I come here and I survey you and I go, how many of you get out of bed just to go for somebody and make their world miserable? And nobody raises their hand. I'm like, who are these people? I put you there because until you get where we come from, your mindset is about awareness. Until you're aware of our behavior, can you make effective change, okay? So when we go into businesses, what we usually find is there's been some sort of conflict, and here are the numbers. Gallup did a study, and they found out, and this is a scary number, 68 to 71% of us quit every day. We say quit our jobs because we talk about corporate America. 68 to 71% of people quit every day. I say the numbers are the same in life. So even if you don't go to a corporate job, when something happens and it doesn't go your way, automatically we go to all or nothing. All being, it's really good, and nothing being, I'm done. I'm not going to do this another day. So something happens at work and you don't agree with it and you go home and you're like, I'm not going back there again. This is crap. I shouldn't have to deal with this. It's usually about another person or a new policy or I can't life-work balance, right? Have you had those thoughts? I don't want to do it again. And then, I don't know, I live in South Dakota, but I'm guessing in Nebraska you have those same things that we do in South Dakota. It's called a mailbox. You usually check it when you go home, right? And I don't know if you guys have this because you're probably too young for it, but I have, as an old person, it's called bills. And when I open that mailbox, those bills are there. They're things like mortgage, college, kids, all of those things are in that box. And all of a sudden I go, you know what, I am going back tomorrow because I have to. Somebody's got to pay these bills, right? But here's the problem. We don't actually quit. We quit in our mind. And when we go back the next day because we realize we have bills to pay, we don't sign back up. Any of you felt that way some days? Yeah, because you go, I can't do this. Okay, I'll go back, but I'm not going to put any energy there because it's causing me pain. And all of my energy is wasted, okay? Now, when we go back to work, we even take it a step further. We don't like to feel alone that we've quit all by ourselves, so we like to gather others with us in our little quitting spaces. And we gather them by driving around and going, toot toot, come be part of my club. And it's called BMWs. We drive BMWs after we've quit because we want other people to join us and tell us how right we are. Then we don't feel bad about quitting because we're social people. We're social creatures. And BMW is belly aching, moaning, and whining. And on Friday night at 5 o'clock, I'll call the B word something else. Very familiar with it, but professionally I choose not to say it. And we pull our BMWs up and we go, come on, this is so wrong. We shouldn't have to tolerate this. Have you met Sally? She's rude and stuck up. It's called negativity. And what it does is it eats away at any energy we have, and it doesn't take it in a positive direction because we start talking ourselves into there's nothing we can do about it, so we're going to stop trying. So in your mind, you might be sitting there going, Lisa, this all sounds good, but you don't know what it's like to be at my house. You don't know what it's like to be in my home. Oh, honey, seriously. We're all the same people with different addresses, I promise you. Just because I train this doesn't mean I don't fall into those same potholes. It's human behavior, and it's okay because now you're aware, and only with the awareness can you start making effective changes, okay? What if we get out of the negativity? What if we choose not to quit? What if we sign back up and we don't choose to say negative things, but we still hear the negative things? Does that take energy from you? This is where you guys respond. Does it take energy from you to be around that? It is draining. There are certain people you will be around and you felt good. You will be laying by your spouse and you're going to meet with your great friends and you love that man laying next to you, and by the time you get done with your girlfriends, you hate the fact that he breathes. And he has just been laying in the same position the whole time. He has not changed. You have. Your mindset has. Because that trip to your support group, these people that inspire you and talk you up, is this one-upping of how bad my situation is compared to yours. And it has to get worse, right? And you go home, you're like, I hate my life. I really do. The reason I'm up here is because I'm supposed to give you hope. You'll hear my stories, you're like, listen, if she gets up every day, I have hope. So let's just start there. We all do it. To be aware of it is where the change starts. So my job is to interrupt your thinking from where it was before by asking you questions. And when I interrupt that old thought, you can choose new thoughts. That's my job. Only every day. Am I always successful at it? Usually with other people. In my own life, not so much. I keep practicing, okay? Because I am never the teacher. I am always the student. Those things that come to you, that cause you pain and stress, your first thought before as, why does somebody get up every day to ruin my life, now goes to, there's my teacher. Thank you. Because you are now going to teach me every trigger I still need to work through. Okay? So the bottom two, you either quit and then you BMW drive, you gather with other people that have quit. You can pick one of those two things, or I can take you to a new place. I can change your results. I can change your life, but before I can do that, I have to change the way you see your life. Because guess what? I have no control over your results. None whatsoever. That's a new thought. When I was younger, the reason my results weren't what I wanted them to be was because I looked to other people to determine how my life was going to come out. My value was always outside, never here. So how much does that play a part in your life? And I wish somebody would have told me or given me hope and taught me that it's in here. It's not out there. So what we're going to work on the next 30 minutes is going in. We call it you go first, meaning every time I look out, I go into personal accountability and I go in and I go, how do I want this to turn out? What do I need to do to change about the way I'm thinking to get a different result? If you look at your life situations where it has failed, what you will mostly see is you've responded exactly the same way every time, because we keep looking out to the event to change for our result to change. What I'm here to tell you is your mindset, the way that that works, is in your mind when you realize you need to let the event go and realize you have no control over that. The only control you have is over the way you're responding to that event. your life will start changing in a different direction and you'll start getting different results. That's what leaders do, and that's where we start. So we talked about disengagement, and that's what we're worried about in communities today, us just checking out. We're disengaged. It doesn't matter anymore. We've quit. We've quit our community, we quit our job, we quit our family, whatever it is, the all or nothing thinking. When we disengage and we stop caring and we feel like we don't have an impact anymore, we're either quitting or we're in the BMW driving mode. That causes us to disengage. Now we need to sign back up. So when I train corporations and I train leaders, we say this: how many people do you believe have quit working with you at your corporation? All these managers will raise their hand. Yeah, Lisa, help us. Look at all these people that have quit. How are we going to solve this? And then what we say to them is, how many people have you fired and not told? Managers, how many people have you fired and not told? How many people in your mind did you check out and go, nothing I do is going to have an impact anyway, so I'm going to stop trying? That's when you disengage with leadership. So what I'm telling you as people in a community, how do you sign back up? When we quit and we BMW drive, our third phase is we go into learn helplessness. And learn helplessness sounds like this. How many of you, show of hands, have been to the circus or the zoo? Okay, well, you know that you'll see things differently now that I tell you this if you haven't heard it before. But learn helplessness is this theory that goes back before 1970. Stagelman's the one that investigated it. And what they did is they take these baby elephants out of the wild, and they're wild. They take them and they chain them to a tree, either around their foot, one of their legs, or around their neck with a chain. And that baby elephant just keeps going in a circle. But its natural response is to fight, to get away, because it wants to run wild. Realistically, it can't. It doesn't have the power to get away. So what that baby elephant does, they figure it takes about 2 weeks. Its mind gives up. It goes into learn helplessness, and it believes no matter what I do to go away, I'm not going to succeed. So I'm going to stop trying and surrender. Nothing I do is going to work. Then we see them in the circus with, it's always a little guy with a little whip that elephant who's grown now could probably stomp on it or just run away, but they don't, do they? Or you see them with the rope and the stake in the ground. That baby elephant is not a baby anymore, but it is still chained to that tree in its mind. That's what learned helplessness is, believing you no longer have the power to make a difference. All of us have the power in every role that we play, the power of influence. When your mind stops seeking options, you give up and you think you don't have impact, so you don't start looking for solutions. Does that make sense? A lot of us go there. We say, it's not going to matter anyway, so I'm going to disengage. I'm checking out. Remember when I said, in your minds, you'll say, Lisa, this all sounds good, but you don't know what it's like to live where I live. You don't know what it's like to do what I do, to go to the corporations. And I'm going to tell you this. I use the word but. Every time you're thinking but, here's what I say. But is what you sit on to stop trying, to stop hoping, to stop leading, to stop looking for solutions instead of seeing everything as a crisis and a problem. When we look at things that way, we go into shutdown mode. So when you're thinking but, look for another option. That's how you get out of learned helplessness. And that's basically what this says. Changing your mindset, this is where it all begins, because the event happens. You have no control over it happening. It already happened. Tomorrow it's going to be 80 degrees. Next week it'll probably be negative 10. We can sit and argue with that, but the last time I checked, none of you are chained to these chairs. And are you going to be able to change the weather? You trying to change somebody's behavior is the same thing. You don't have that power. So what we teach you is to use your power where you can be most effective. Do you. You go first. Focus on the part you play on it and what you can do to find a solution instead of focusing on the event. The event is the past, it already happened. You can learn two things from that. You can learn from it and you can do better next time. It's the past. You being in where you're at right now and your mindset and what you can control is your response to the event. That's where your power begins. The event, no control. Your response to it, 100%. And here's what it looks like. Your event will go into a thought and you'll think something about it. That thought will go into a feeling. Your feeling will go into a behavior, and that's your result. You have no control over the event. You have 100% control over your response to it. You pick it only every time. That means you have 100% control over the response. When you are arguing with reality, he shouldn't be late, she shouldn't lie, this person shouldn't have pulled out in front of me. You are sitting in should, and you're sitting in the event, and you're arguing with reality. And you'll be wrong only 100% of the time. So here's my other catchphrase. When your mind is thinking should, you are shoulding all over yourself. I said should, HR, should. Little key words that help you remember these things. So when you're sitting in should, your business is in somebody else's world, get back in your business and get back in your lane and do with the power that you have. Now, I'm going to introduce to you somebody that's actually young on our team, Alex, and he's going to give you a story about how this works, how reality-based leadership changed his life, because it's been so recent. I could tell you 100 stories. But his is truer and newer for now. So I invited him to join me on the stage or walk around, whatever you feel comfortable doing, Alex, and tell his story of change and how this works.
Yeah, so I'm Alex. Can you guys hear this? I'm the millennial that just messed up the poll everywhere, as you saw. So, and this goes perfect. If you can go to the next slide. I wanted to talk today about how this changed my life, and just real quickly, one of our principles with reality-based leadership is suffering's completely optional. Now, you guys saw me over there. That was suffering. That's suffering. And how do I know that? I actually love hiking, and this last summer I got to go to Spain. We're in the mountains, and we're going to go hiking, and I was stressed. It was actually with my wife's family, and so I was meeting them, and I don't quite speak Spanish, and so, it's very stressful the whole time. But we got a day that freed all up. And so we're going to go hiking. Perfect day, no clouds, everything's amazing. So we find a nice trail. Let's say this is it. So we're running, we're in love, everything's just beautiful. And I see something squiggly in the path. You guys are already suffering. Say, oh my God, it's a snake. I look at my wife, I say, if that thing bites me, are you going to suck the venom out or am I? Do I need to grab like this tree limb and wrap it around so it doesn't spread to my heart? Do we need to go to the hospital in Spain? Does my insurance cover that? I mean, do they even let me pay for that in euros, dollars? Am I covered for a snake bite? I guess I didn't check the forms very well. And all of my peace just went to misery. We get up a little closer. I was frozen because I was suffering so much. We finally get the courage to step forward. We realize it's just a snake, or it's just a rope. What caused my suffering? The rope, or my thoughts about the rope? Or the story I made up about what would happen? It was the story. And so over here, same thing happened. The rope was, the pull everywhere wasn't working. That's what I know for sure. The story I was making up that I'm ruining Lisa's speech and everybody's looking at me as the millennial can't do this, that was the suffering. How many times at work in life do we turn ropes into snakes? Simple things happen. The story gets us frustrated. And so suffering is completely optional. So that's a little mindset shift that really opened up my thinking to this philosophy, to the power I could have. Another one was with change. Change always scares us. It scares us that we want to resist it right away. Things are changing quickly. With our philosophy, someone told me just change that word, change, just put next in there. There's too much next going on. I'm not ready for more next. It totally changed the way you're thinking about how fast change is happening. Do it for a few hours or a few months. Switch the word change with next. So it's a mindset shift. The power of reframing is another mindset shift that changed everything for me. Don't hope to see your circumstances differently. Hope to see don't hope for different circumstances, hope to see them differently. It's a huge mindset shift. And then when you are changing mindsets, step into the power you already have. If you are a leader and you walk into a group of managers that are saying how something can't get done, and you walk in and just say, what do we know for sure? What's our rope? And what could we do to add value? How could we get there? Right there, you are the leader, even though your title doesn't say it, because you've changed the direction of the energy, talking about how we could, not why we can't. And so those are just a few things that really helped me realize that suffering's completely optional, the power of our mindset and the impact of our thinking. And so thank you guys. Lisa, just wanted to tell that quick story.
Thank you, Alex. Can you guys hear me? We talk about stories we're going to tell, and whenever we give each other assignment of telling a story, we're like, well, I don't have a story about that. But honestly, there's stories that appear in front of us all the time. And there's been times my pearls have been, they fall off when I'm presenting. PowerPoints don't go right. But as a leader, all of you look to me to go, should we be nervous? Should we be scared of is this all going to suck right now because the PowerPoint didn't work? No, and if I freak out, you're going to freak out. Everybody, eyes are on you. The power of influence is everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's only in front of us all the time. Things are going to go different. When we go into negative mindset and when we start reacting differently is when we're believing something that's not true. We're afraid, we're fearing something. What I want to give you goes perfect with Alex's story, is about the rope. You see it as a snake. It's a rope. Let go of the rope. More of my situations have turned out positive when my response to the event used to be negative. And I think two things. One, let go of the rope. What would happen, Lisa, if you let go of the rope? And then all of a sudden it leaves me. Because I don't have the need to control something I can't. I controlled what I could, my response to it. That's been very helpful. The other thing, when I started training with CYN, she taught me coaching, because good leaders are coaches. You ask questions instead of giving answers. You ask twice as many questions as you give answers. So she taught me how to coach by picking me up at my house one day, and we had a 6-hour drive, which we do quite a bit as speakers. You just get in your car and you start driving. So she picked me up from my house and she said, Lisa, I can feel there's a lot of tension here. What's going on? I said, CYN, I learned a long time ago because I was in banking, you leave your personal life at home. And we're working now, and so I'm not going to bring that into this car. She said, you already did. I can feel it. So I'm going to teach you how to coach. So tell me the situation. So I told her the situation. She said, would you rather be right or happy? I'm like, this is coaching, I got this. I'd rather be right because it makes me happy. Next question. She said, it's a good thing we've got 6 hours because you're a mess and we're going to need all 6. And I said it with every part of righteousness in my body just going, yeah, that's the answer. Next. So my question when I'm in coaching mode, and I'm not talking about coaching other people, I'm talking about coaching me, because personal accountability is I go first. I cannot possibly help you if I don't clean up my own stuff. I just keep having to clean it. Only every day. That's reality. So my second response is when you are triggered by an event that you can't control, ask yourself, I could be wrong. Could I be wrong? Or turn it around. They could be right. So now, whenever I'm presented with something I don't agree with, my first thought is, you could be right. The old me added, you could be wrong, but you also could be right. You could be right. You're letting go of the need to be right. Because when we're right, what I found out, would you rather be right or happy? When I had to be right all the time, if I have to be right all the time, what does that make you? Wrong. People get tired of being wrong. And if I'm right and you're wrong, defense is the first act of war. And guess what, guys? Now it's on. Us and them. There's the line, and I just drew it. I picked it. I can change my thought at any point to change the results if I focus on the right thing, which is going first, working on me being accountable by asking myself questions. So if you want to change behavior and make that change effective, ask yourself a question. Asking yourself a question interrupts the thought. And that's where I go, can I drop the rope? What can I do to help? How can I add value to the situation? Go-to responses. Does that help? Am I helping? Okay. So, that's what reality-based leadership is. First, we teach reality-based thinking, changing the way you see your situation. I cannot change your results. I can change the way you see your circumstances. It is up to you to change your results by changing your response to the event. We also drive for the results. But the main core of what we teach in reality-based leadership is being personally accountable to your behavior. And I want you to think about leaders, somebody that's inspired you. I can get up here and tell you all of these great stories, but unless I put them into action and I live them, you don't look at other people as leaders. So it's about doing, not just talking the talk, but putting it into actions. What do you do? How do you show up as a leader? And change is a part of that. What we teach about change, instead of seeing change as an obstacle and as a problem, you look at change as opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to grow. That situation just arrived in my PowerPoint. I was like, oh, I thought it was going to go this way. Guess what? It changed. It was all right here. I decided what I was going to do with it. I decided the direction it was going to go. The minute you are blaming somebody else for something changing, the minute you are judging somebody else's behavior and looking out instead of looking in, you are going further away from personal accountability, and you're going away from the direction of being a leader and inspiring other people, because they're looking at what you do, not what you say when change happens. So capitalizing on change is a good thing. We argue with it shouldn't be changing, but in reality, change is constant. It is happening all the time. And lining up with your organization. So the focus on everything we teach in reality-based leadership is about personal accountability. When I signed up to start teaching this, I worked at a bank, and Cy came and did a presentation for us. And I thought, oh my gosh, where was she 20 years ago? And I started working with her. I thought this was going to be a work thing. I'm going to learn how to be a leader at work. This is amazing stuff. Here's what I didn't know. It was a lifestyle change. Everything I saw differently. I changed the way I thought, and all of a sudden I started getting results. My results, the ones I picked, even when they didn't turn out. When you're personally accountable, it's okay. Even when you fail, because you go, I'm human, I messed up. And I can do it different tomorrow. When you are in judgment, you're looking out. When you're judging another human being, you're not leading anymore. You're no longer leading. You're no longer serving, and you're no longer adding value. So if I am sitting back in judgment and blaming you, drawing conclusions from your behavior, judging you, I can no longer help you. I can no longer lead you. And I can no longer add value. And there's no third option. You're either in one column or the other. And that's when I'm triggered by judgment, I realize I need to get back in my lane and work on me and stop arguing with reality. That person shouldn't be that way. I got enough to deal with just doing me and taking care of my stuff. And that's when you start coaching. So leadership and coaching work hand in hand. You go first. You coach yourself first. And here's what I know for sure. Whether you believe it possible or impossible, you will make that true. You decide how it's going to go. So tomorrow morning when you roll out of bed, your first thought, you will determine the results of that day. And I don't polish this part. If I got out of bed today, and I'd done a training yesterday I didn't expect to do, and I'm beat-feeting it to get here, and I'm thinking, this day's gonna suck, this day's gonna suck. I promise you, everything that came in my way looked like an obstacle. Everything that came in my way, since I've learned personal accountability, and I choose happiness, I choose hope, I choose to inspire, it is a choice. When I rolled out of bed today, realizing what was in store for me, I go, I cannot wait. I cannot wait because this is what I do for a living and I'm so lucky to do it. Everything didn't come that way. I decided what it looked like every time it popped up in front of me. Those triggers are within you. If you choose to see them differently, your results will be different. Personal accountability and happiness rise and fall at the same pace. You want to be happy, you pick to be happy. It's your first thought when you get out of bed every day. So my last question to you is, did I make you better than when I got here? That's what I want you to walk into every situation. You feel like it's going to go bad. You think, am I going to make this better than before I got here? That's the power of influence you have. Thank you.